If you are able to create a culture in an organization where there is a privileging of abuse, where we understand when people come to see us and their behaviors may be, labeled as odd or different or scary or pick your label, that we don't just automatically rush to judgment, that is a person who's trying to tell us something right in our own lobby or over the phone or in the community when we meet up with them. And we have to take the time to really spend some time allowing that conversation to happen. If you expect that you're going to get a straight story from A to Z, you might as well just recalibrate. People have to have that experience. It's a very chaotic experience that people bring to us if they are able even to find their way to someone who will listen. And we have to listen to that chaos, and we have to be comfortable with it. And I sort of built a little rule for myself when I was doing counseling, was that, for that first 5 or 10 minutes, it's just the dump. What's going on? And the dump could be, it could go back 20 years and today, and then it goes all over the place. But if I wasn't able to sit and be comfortable with that dumping time, the person I was working with would never be able to proceed. So I had to give that time, and I'm under all this pressure. I have to see this many clients and that sort of thing.
I think one of the big things that is really important is to acknowledge the power differential in that relationship. You, as someone who is a counselor, do hold a lot of power. And I think really having that be explicit and spoken about when you're first meeting that individual who may themselves feel like, as someone who they may presume doesn't know much about their experience, may presume that you may have some of your own assumptions of people's abilities and capacity as it relates to disability, to be able to, lay the groundwork where you two get to work together, as opposed to you coming in as the counselor holding all that knowledge. Because that woman really does, and that man also, they both are coming with their own lived experience and are the experts of that experience. And for you to be able to hear that.
It's really important that we meet people where they're at, that we can't expect a person with a disability to trundle into an office on a snowy day or a really hot day or whatever, that we create structures and environments where we go to meet people where they're at. That might be in their communities, it might be in their homes, it might be in their places of worship, it might be at their doctor's offices sometimes. We get quite creative about how we access people.
C'est important que l'intervenant connaisse aussi qu'est-ce que c'est la communauté des sourds, quelles sont les caractéristiques des personnes sourdes. Donc, c'est important que les intervenants aient une connaissance minimale de la situation vécue par les victimes, d'assurer un service d'interprète, de regarder la personne direct dans les yeux, d'avoir des informations de base comme ça qui permet effectivement un lien déjà, un lien de confiance. Et pour les personnes handicapées, il y a des besoins différents selon les handicaps aussi. Donc, c'est important que les intervenants aient une connaissance de la situation des personnes pour lesquelles ils donnent un service, pour créer un lien de confiance.
J'ai hébergé beaucoup de femmes, des femmes handicapées, des femmes n'ayant pas d'handicap, mais aussi des femmes aînées ayant un handicap. Et ce qu'elles ont de besoin, c'est d'être accompagnées dans le processus de libération de cette violence-là. C'est que pour elles, là, des fois, juste faire un téléphone, là, c'est la montagne, là, c'est vraiment inaccessible. Mais de demander, est-ce que vous voulez que je vous accompagne dans ce processus-là? Est-ce que vous voulez que je téléphone pour vous? Parce que des fois, quand ils ont à téléphoner, que ce soit à l'aide juridique ou que ce soit dans un centre d'hébergement ou que ce soit de trouver, d'aller à la cour, des fois, le processus est tellement long que nous autres, si on a la capacité d'avoir ces numéros de téléphone-là à la portée de la main, on dit, je peux faire les téléphones avec vous. Alors ça, c'est pas grand-chose, mais ça l'aide vraiment la personne à se sentir en confiance et le dossier évolue. Jamais envoyer quelqu'un là avec son petit malheur en dessous du bras puis ses ressources, dire ben va-t'en chez vous, puis fais tes téléphones. Elle les fera pas les téléphones parce qu'ils sont tellement démolis qu'ils n'ont pas la force de faire ces démarches-là toutes seules.
This speaks to the issue for men with disabilities because, again, having safe spaces where they can come together as men, as peers, because you talked about the trauma people carry around who've been victims of abuse. Well, it's a lot harder for men to actually share their experiences of trauma around abuse because they're just not socialized to do that. And so the men I've spoken to around that is like, well, there aren't any spaces I can get together with guys and talk about my experiences. Don't have to be therapeutic spaces necessarily, but just spaces that are safe, where they can actually surface some of their experiences and know that they'll be supported and believed, you know, and not feel the stigma that for a lot of men, the stigma is around being open about my experience of abuse when I was 6 or 12. The internalized guilt is still very present for men. Having men who maybe have some lived experience around disability is helpful. I think the guys I was able to get together with knew that I was a man with lived experience, and I articulated my experience to them, so that made it a bit safer for them to actually want to sit in a room with someone who might be almost a stranger to them in an intimate sort of context, right? So that's one thing, and then also just being clear in terms of what it means to have a safe space. You know, what stays in a room, comes in a room, stays in a room. It's a very small community, even in this big city. Some guys were afraid of what they might share in a space might leak out, and then it's somebody else comes, finds out about it. So
I think that when you are ready to leave, there are things that you can consider and have in place before making that decision. And one of those is about having a connection with somebody else who you trust and who you know will not come back and disclose any information that you've shared with them, in particular if there's somebody that already also knows your abuser. I think having an opportunity to know what's available in your community as far as services for women who are surviving violence. You may not go to them right away, but at least you know that they're there. And to be able to, you know, find that information out with the support of a friend. The other thing as well is to have some kind of plan in place for you, whether that is, you know, having your documents, having your medications, having anything that you need, that you know you need to take with you, ready to go. Whether that's, you know, in a place that you can grab the bag and go when you have that, you know, window of opportunity. That there are organizations that, you know, when you're ready, that they can also support you in finding a safe shelter and finding a space where you can get support. And sometimes that is available, you know, through a phone call, calling the Assaulted Women's Helpline, calling some of the distress centers if you don't have access to, you know, a provincial helpline. But, you know, getting that information sort of as part of your plan so that when you're ready, you'll be that much better prepared.
Et moi, j'en suis à me dire, ben, peut-être qu'on est rendu à l'ère présentement où il faudrait, tout handicap confondu, se mettre ensemble et voir qu'est-ce qu'on pourrait pas créer comme organisme ou comme, en tout cas, moyen d'intervention. En tout cas, je n'ai pas le nom exactement, mais penser à un concept, en tout cas, certainement, qui rallierait nos ressources, nos solutions, de façon à ce qu'au lieu d'être divisés, on soit rassemblés. Parce que tous et toutes, autant qu'on est, chacune des violences crée un sentiment extrêmement désagréable au niveau de notre humanité. Hein? On sent à un moment donné qu'on est des sous-citoyennes, on est toujours en dessous de quelque chose. Et à partir du moment où on se nomme et on nomme les choses, on dit non, moi je ne suis pas ça et vous ne me mettrez pas là. Que ces solutions-là ne viendront pas des spécialistes, des travailleurs sociaux, des médecins qui sont présentement des gestionnaires bien plus que des médecins et ainsi de suite. Et c'est nous qui allons être les décideurs là-dedans, de plus en plus, moi je le crois, et c'est de la base qu'on va travailler pour remonter. Moi, j'essaie cette phrase-là devant moi là, depuis tantôt, là, en arrière. Là, puis vous allez voir, il y a différents intervenants, dont Tandem, qui fait partie de la police. Puis la phrase qui est écrite en haut, lorsque sécurité et accessibilité universelle vont de pair, et là, on est global, là, on est vraiment dans l'inclusion, les femmes handicapées ouvrent la voie. Moi, depuis tout à l'heure, je regarde ça, puis je fais comme, effectivement, à partir du moment où on a notre sécurité sociale, financière, intégrité aussi physique, santé, accompagnement, tout ça mis ensemble, plus une accessibilité universelle, c'est-à-dire qu'il n'y a plus de barrières architecturales, il n'y a plus d'obstacles aussi au niveau du préjugé, du regard de l'autre. Je veux dire, non seulement on ouvre la voie, mais la voie est pratiquement d'elle-même ouverte.